So welcome to another episode of Evolv. We're here to talk about product management and how AI is going to start to impose itself on product management. Here with one of our very own, Byron Levin. You are a senior solutions consultant for FintechOS. You've been part of their success over the last few years as you built out the customer base across banking and building societies. We're also doing a white paper together about this very subject, so it's great timing for this podcast.
Perfect timing. Looking forward to getting the paper out.
Yeah, indeed. So let's kick off and speak about, I guess, traditional methods of product management and then how that kind of evolves into AI and how that's going to play its part. And I guess, how do they differ, Byron, from your experience?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's, it's really important to understand, where we are today and how that's, being transitioned into how we view the future. And really traditional methods and approaches to product management, as I'm sure you know very well, traditional product management was really something that was heavily tied to old legacy core systems.
Yeah.
Products were really kind of deeply embedded in legacy core systems. It was a very manual type labor-intensive process. In some cases, you have products in proprietary systems that only a few people understand. In some cases, you still have products even created and managed on Excel in some cases. And we're talking about, some very large, quite established institutions using these quite old, rigid and slow processes and systems, and to create products, to amend products, to update products. Effectively has become a big technology product or project, rather, a big development project. And the people who have the ideas, the product managers, the people who are in the market, don't actually have the power to create and deliver their best ideas because everything has become a big development IT project. So that's kind of the old, the landscape of old.
Yeah.
Moving forward, we're seeing what we're calling and kind of pioneering is this AI-powered product management or product manager that's being enabled by AI-powered product engines, which is effectively enabling these product management or product managers with a set of tools to quickly and easily draft new products, create product specifications, bring those products to market quicker with more intelligence, and iterate it a lot faster. So putting the power back in the hands of the product manager to focus on what they do best.
Yeah.
And bring their best ideas to market instead of having to, have giant technology projects to, bring, simple products to market.
You're right, because even in the banks that I've had the pleasure in working in, whether you want to build a new product or whether you want to amend an existing product or make a version of it or an offshoot of it, actually it takes so much time and effort and a lot of cost, right? Because you've got to change it in, as you say, the core system, which maybe isn't as agile as we'd all want it to be. It's hard-coded into that. It's probably hard-coded in some middleware in terms of CRM system and, of course, the origination platform as well. So even making carbon copies with a little bit of change of a deposit product or lending product, you're almost starting from scratch, right? A lot of the hard work's been done, the blueprint, but actually the actual build of that product takes, I was going to say weeks, it's more like months, actually. Months. Yeah. Costs a hell of a lot of money. You've got to involve your tech team up front, and suddenly, you then got to book their time, and that delays it even more and more.
Yeah. Well, this is the point. At some point, it's not even worth making those changes because it's going to take you so long. It's going to cost so much that you're going to probably miss the opportunity, and it's not going to be worth it. Yeah. And so that's really where the power of AI product management is coming in. It's a new, it's not just about doing things faster. There's automation tools that can help you do things faster and give you productivity, but this is representing a new way that people can create and deliver and manage their products going forward without having to rip and replace their entire core systems. AI-powered product engines are taking products out of the core and giving those product managers, what they want, the ability to implement and deliver their best ideas without having to rip and replace the entire core estate. So it's really representing a kind of new approach to product management. That's obviously what's going to be coming out in the paper soon, a bit of a roadmap about how banks can really start implementing this new approach.
Yeah, you spot on. Speed to market, we talked about it on previous pods, is the holy grail for any bank. And as you say, if it's taking months multi-months to get any new product out, which is probably become outdated. You miss your opportunity. A competitor's done it, far quicker than you, and you've lost your market penetration, and you've just spent hundreds of thousands of pounds to develop it out. It makes absolutely no sense at all. So, okay, so look, clearly things are moving at pace, and you've probably got a few ideas of what's driving this seismic shift now. Yeah,
absolutely. Like what's pushing people forward. There are a couple key elements. Key factors that are driving this change, and one of the key elements that we've been seeing is a move away from what used to be a very kind of product-centric, kind of one-dimensional world where banks were creating products, individual products, kind of one-size-fits-all type products, and basically just pushing those products to people with no real meaningful view on what that product actually means for those consumers.
Yeah.
However, in today's world, we're in what we call a kind of life-centric economy. Banks need to really think a lot more about the lifestyle and stage of their customers, the nature of those customers, and how these customers are actually engaging with these financial services.
Yeah.
And so that's actually driving a move away from one-dimensional products into what we're seeing as financial solutions for customers. You're seeing a lot of of course, some of the neobank type players, you don't sign up for a Revolut account and just get an account. You get a package, and that package includes some accounts, it includes some subscriptions. It's all kind of bundled up into particular solutions that meet a particular need for some kind of consumer group.
Yeah.
And so product managers need to think about, well, how do you actually, how do you create these solutions for these customers? So that's one of the key. That's one of the key market shifts that we're seeing. It also comes at a time where AI is, of course, emerging. Yeah. It's become, it's not necessarily new, of course, as a concept, but in recent years, it's just kind of proliferated into the mainstream. And now people have all of these tools at hand that they can use to, get smarter about how they create products, test products, get product insights. Yep. Customers are also getting smarter. Education is somewhat, increasing and becoming more accessible. And then you have, the usual suspects like, regulation and compliance, which is always seemingly never ending.
It's only ever growing, that's for sure.
Yeah. So, and it's not necessarily a bad, it's not a bad thing. Of course, regulation's there to, keep things, markets regulated, to keep consumers safe, to provide some kind of structure to markets, which is important. And actually, I think out of these constraints that people have, you sometimes find ideas, pockets of creativity when you have these kind of constraints, and so it makes people think more and more about, how they create their products, or, when you have consumer duty and you need to, maybe think harder about your target market that you're defining for particular customers.
Yeah.
Again, it's putting more emphasis on how people are thinking about creating these solutions for their customers. I don't think it's really acceptable to just say, here's a current account, it's a basic account, and it's just, it might work. But
yeah, of course, yeah.
Is that going to be, leading the way? I don't.
I guess, we touched on the question before, but to drive true personalization into product means that you're going to have, when you design that product journey into core, into whatever it is, that flexibility, the ability to be agile around the features of that product, or the offshoots of that product. One of the issues we've touched on it before, is that the systems in which they're operating aren't agile enough to be able to cater for that. The cost of it, the time frame of it. That's probably why banks do offer that kind of one size fits all type of product.
Yeah. The constraints. It's, most of the conversations are, I have this great idea, but I can't implement it because of X, Y, and Z holding me back. And that's frustrating for someone or a group of like a product management group where you have you have ideas, you want to speak to customers, you're looking into the market.
Yeah.
And if you can't implement those ideas, then it's it gets frustrating. And this is even not necessarily just with old legacy systems, even some kind of new age type systems. They might be built on better technology. They might offer some additional degrees of flexibility, but still they only go so far. and that's why product management engines, taking products kind of out of that sort of core domain, really open up this idea of flexibility and agility for product managers.
I read in a study, and you're going to talk about it in the white paper, that is it 97% of product managers spend 20% of their time doing effectively manual tasks. That's a lot of time.
Yeah. I mean, if you kind of need to look across the whole value chain of product management, and of course you've seen this firsthand, actually being in that position, and I see it a lot, speaking to a lot of product managers, but right from across the value chain, right from things like research, analysis, product design, testing, and that's kind of like the fun part. Then you get into making sure things are compliant, making sure you go through your multiple approval layers, making sure you monitor appropriately. You mentioned roadmap updates, status updates.
Yeah.
All of these things are kind of operational in nature, and they're taking away from what product management and product managers should be doing. Yeah. Which is, bringing great new solutions to market.
That's a great point. It leads me to the kind of next point, which is how the role of a product manager, I've seen it firsthand, has evolved and changed over the years, where, dare I say it, they've almost lost the ownership of the products in which they've been designed and put to market. We touched on the regulation, the compliance element, and I've seen it where, second line functions like fin crime, compliance, legal, risk, have almost now become quasi product owners now, because of that level of regulation that sits there. So actually, it started to kill that, as you said, that innovation space for product managers. I mean, I've seen it.
Well, I think this is the thing. Who's kind of like the ultimate owner of the product, and where are you spending your energy and attention? Are you spending your energy and attention designing products that your compliance team is going to sign off on?
Yeah.
Or are you really trying to, open up new opportunities in the market by providing your customers or your target market with the right solutions that they need?
Yeah.
And I think a lot of, like, you've seen a lot of this shift with, the incumbent type banks and of course neo type banks, and, new type of banks or ideas that banks are bringing to market today, where the leaders are reinventing how they're creating and distributing these new solutions.
Yep.
And that's why they're seeing incredible growth and really kind of picking up. It appears that a lot of the incumbent banks have it, much more. It's much more difficult for them because they have much bigger, more entrenched compliance procedures. They have a lot, sort of increased perceived risk, and so it kind of takes away you're more concerned about launching a product that's going to cause you some problems potentially, rather than thinking about delighting your customers with great products and great experiences. And so these neobanks have grown up in that startup world where it's like move fast, launch new products, iterate, and that's why they're growing so fast. And we're seeing we're seeing a lot of new ideas coming as well. Of course, we were discussing previously about a new bank in Asia that's launching this concept of programmable money and programmable banking, which again, it's like a new concept of giving customers the ability to program their own rules and ideas into how they want their banking experience to operate. No one else is offering that kind of experience. And is that like, would you want to go and tell your compliance team, hey,
the second line team is going nuts at this point.
Yeah, exactly. You're gonna let your customers do what with their own accounts, and like, but you need to, you need pioneers to kind of push beyond that, and don't let this kind of internal procedures shouldn't really hold you back.
It shouldn't. The reality, it does. So I mean, I know some fantastic product owners out there that are really passionate about the products that they bring to market. They do all the right things in terms of their market analysis, their competitive analysis, the pricing, the target market. They do qualitative, quantitative research. They speak to their customers. They design fantastic solutions. They work with platforms like us. they do all that over a spread of time, and they'll end up in a no-go type meeting or a steer co and exco, and they'll get derailed by, whether it be somebody's second line or even maybe an executive member that, with great respect to a lot of them, probably haven't been very close to the program, the project. They probably haven't read the paper, and they'll get derailed, and you almost have to start again. And I guess what I'd love to see is almost speak truth to power, and the product owners truly own the product and stand up for what they believe in, and in those types of go-no-goes, and launch and learn, and if it fail fast and move on to the next one, and have that agility. But it's in certainly in maybe more established banks, they still don't quite act like a neobank or a tech company. They've got that agility. They're still very much waterfall. And so it does stoke that innovation. I think they should. I think they should imply I think it's Jeff Bezos who had the rule. I think he called it the pizza rule, where you could only have so many people in the room that I think it's 2 large pizzas could feed. So that's a great rule. And then every paper couldn't be any more than 2 pages long.
The old memo. You can't do anything without a memo.
No decks, no presentations, and then every meeting, the first 20 minutes was silent, because he knew people never read the papers, right? So you come in, you read the paper, you got 20 minutes, and the best point I thought, which is I implore everybody to implement, maybe not this way, but there's always an empty chair in the room, and that empty chair represented the customer. And within that corporate sphere, anybody could then point to the empty chair and said, "What does the customer think about that?
What would they think?"
We're talking about this. We're doing that one-upmanship. We're scoring points in this. But what does the customer think of this?
It's so easy to just get caught in your own world,
to forget about it,
not look outside.
So I thought that's a great rule.
It's great. I mean, the memos are great. They really force you to actually think quite deeply about what it is the message you're trying to convey, rather than presentations are quite easy and sometimes can be somewhat superficial. So actually, you need to really think about, you actually need to put some brain power into actually thinking about your solution, your message, whatever it is that you're trying to achieve. I think the other point though is not to compliance, risk, and regulation is crucial to any, I think, well-functioning market. And these teams are also doing incredible work on keeping people safe. A lot of these groups, not to take away from product management, but these groups are also evolving with the kind of new current age of AI and the solutions that's enabling them. So they're also doing great work, but I think they shouldn't hold product managers back, because they will also be evolving. And we see a lot of the time, people that we speak to, or that I speak to, are saying we need to rationalize our product. We actually need to do less, because we don't have the ability to launch more products, or we've kind of accumulated a few hundred products in our core system, and we just can't manage that. It doesn't. It's not possible, and so they're being forced to do less, to do fewer things, and in some cases to do simpler things, which again is kind of stifling their ability to innovate. And actually, I think when you look at the capabilities that these AI-powered product engines can enable, at some point, like, the number of products that you have shouldn't really matter. You can have you should be able to have as many products as you want, and actually not really care about it, because you should be creating new products, new product ideas, variations of products to meet particular needs that customers have at any particular point in time. So it shouldn't be a problem if you have 1 product, 10 products, or 1,000 products, because your AI-powered product engine can basically give you the capacity to manage all of those products. It doesn't care. You may live in a multi-core world, and your AI product engine can then help you just propagate those products into your various core systems. And so that again, it shouldn't hold you back, but it is a real challenge that we're seeing. You started
to talk about how AI now going to empower these poor old product owners and managers that we've been talking about over the last few minutes. So let's talk about it a little bit more. And you said a phrase to me a little while ago, which made me laugh, but vibe coding. Talk to me about vibe coding.
Vibe coding. It's all about the vibes nowadays.
I hear vibe coding and I automatically think about some 90s music, which I'm not going to embarrass myself by even talking about or even singing. But that's
we'll save the singing for the next pod, maybe when I'm not here. Vibe coding. The advent of AI powered product engines and just this accessibility that has kind of opened up in the recent years. It's really a new emergent term that is kind of meaning.
I thought you'd made it up. I did.
I definitely didn't make it up. But it's effectively referring to the ability for people to have conversations with agents that they can use to code and configure their own products and solutions.
Yeah.
And again, when we think about that history of like what it was like to create a product previously in some green screen system, then you had some development, or you have a lot of development. Now you have configuration based systems. You need to go and type some stuff into some system to configure a product.
Yeah.
But with vibe coding, you can just sit and have a conversation with your agent and say, "Hey, I want to create a."
And this is using natural language.
Yeah, just using natural language. It's basically that accessibility is really leveling the playing field. So pretty much anybody now can have a conversation with an agent and just start that whole design and configuration experience. Vibe coding, having a conversation with your agent. Hey, I want to create a new commercial loan product.
Yeah.
For this particular market with these parameters. I want to have it delivered on this channel with these particular steps and these integrations. And that agent can then go and fetch all of the necessary components, can start actually doing that configuration in whatever system you're using.
Yeah.
And so again, it's just giving.
That's a big chunk of work for a product owner, right? So if you can start taking that, I'll use the phrase mundane. I don't mean it in that way, but if you start taking away that process, that manual piece of work from product owners and product managers, and it frees them up time to have more of that innovation type thought process, does them more time to do that qualitative research. That's going to be massive.
Yeah, and I think it's a lot of it is like removing some of that operational work, which is it's quite time consuming. And it is also, there is a limiting factor. You might be drafting a new product and you need to work on your product specification.
Mm-hmm.
At some point you need to actually do that configuration.
Yeah.
And you might have a good idea, but you might do like half of that configuration during one day, and then like you're probably tired at some point and you need to stop and have a break and like. And it's
do you
kind
not
of
work?
limiting.
You don't work straight through, no?
You
do take breaks.
Occasionally,
Okay.
I am known to occasionally have a little coffee break every now and then, just occasionally.
You're allowed.
It's thanks. It's very kind. So that's kind of it's quite a limiting factor. And when you then have something like an agent, it's not only going to help you speed up that process, but it can then open up a world of new ideas and options that you didn't have. Like, hey, I'm drafting this product. Can you draft 10 variations of this product? And actually, can you draft some ideas about how I should price this product to increase my margin across some different kind of sectors?
Yeah.
And you can then, send that little task. I can go have my little coffee break, and when I come back, I can have 10 variations of product configurations that I can now spend time reviewing. I can get new ideas and insights into how I should configure my product in various ways. My agent will kind of be there with me, all along the way as I'm creating this product. You might want to, kind of critique yourself as you're going through the process of configuring this product. Are these the kind of business rules that I should be creating on this product? Are these rules going to help me increase my approval rates? Are these rules too onerous and they're going to make it really difficult for anybody to get approved? So I think, there is a big part of efficiency in like taking away some of these tasks, like designing and creating some product configurations and specifications. But I think there's also this whole other world of new ideas that you just didn't know you had access to before, or it was really difficult to access those in some efficient way. I mean, where else can you just go, create me 100 variations of this product?
Amazing,
Like you just can't do that.
And I guess we're talking about the creation of product, but also the same can be said for managing that product for its life cycle as well. So, obviously, product managers, product owners will spend a hell of a lot of time, monitoring the performance of said product. They'll be monitored against a whole bunch of KPIs. They want to understand if it's getting the market penetration, whether it's hitting the market they said, if it's performing in line with expectations, whether it's performing financially, if the pricing's right, you name it, right, whatever those KPIs are. So when these product managers it's a whole bunch of tasks there, and they're going to have to renew that product after 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, whatever it might be. So I can see it playing its part there as well.
Yeah, agents can effectively play a role, I think, across the whole value chain of product management to varying degrees. Getting insights on monitoring your existing product portfolio. Of course, there are a lot of monitoring solutions out there already. There are a lot of good reporting tools that people are, of course, already using.
Yeah.
But when you then kind of overlay that with some kind of agent experience, you can just open up new ideas, new questions, things that you didn't even know to ask, which is really important. And we were talking about the changing role of product managers and kind of where we are with AI and agents, and it's still a very new experience. I don't think there's probably very few super user type AI consumers at the moment, and so the changing role of product management and product managers, I think, is going to really largely depend on how expert you become in leveraging these models. And it's new roles and skills are emerging. Like prompt engineering is actually a real thing. The way in which you engage with your agents is actually going to shape who is going to get better output. Because you can't forget, agents they're not some kind of living conscious being, right? They're not yet. They're great. Effectively great token predictors, compressing a lot of information and kind of predicting some ideas.
Yeah.
But this is where I think it's like a good journalist. You know the questions to ask that's going to elicit the right kind of responses, and if you can develop the right conversations with your agents, you're going to get a lot better output that's going to fuel product managers going forward beyond what you have now, which is graphs, charts, reports. Someone needs to still go look at those. You still need to understand them and so on.
I know you reference in your white paper, I'm just reading here, that it says that research shows that banks leveraging AI for personalization see 20 to 30% increase in product uptake. So those that are using it in the right way, even today, and we're at the very, very start of this journey, already seeing those types of returns. So you're right in what you're saying.
Yeah, well, I think so. And that's, it's still so early, right? But it's giving you a bit of an insight into what consumers are actually looking for, relevant solutions at any particular moment in their life, and banks who can respond in this kind of real-time, continuous life cycle are going to attract the interest of the right customers when they need them. If you don't have that ability to respond quickly, then you don't have the ability to capture customers as they're evolving, and they're continuously evolving.
Let's talk about some of the benefits, and it would be a remiss if we didn't talk about some of the risks as well of this type of AI powered product management. So let's start with the good side, right? Let's start with we've touched on a lot of benefits today, but let's talk about some of the benefits, and they'll no doubt fall into some of the risks that follow it along as well. Yeah,
absolutely. We should, it would be the right thing to do.
Let's do the good news story first. Let's talk about some of the benefits.
The good, the bad, and the ugly of agents. I mean, we have, I think, covered quite a lot of it already. I think there is a big productivity play generally, right?
Yeah. Speed to market, generating efficiencies.
Speed to market, efficiency, and in just the how you create and manage and deliver new products. And I think that's just pretty well understood, and I think that's just going to continue on its own productivity path. People are just getting more and more productive in their daily lives.
Yep.
I think more interestingly, at least in my opinion, is how these AI-powered product engines are somewhat leveling the playing field, or sort of opening up the kind of aperture of ideas that people can actually implement and invent. So now, you're not restricted by, I'm not a developer, so I can't create a new product. Mm-hmm. Or I don't know how to do a configuration on the system, so I can't do it. You can now have a conversation, draft your products, and the ideas that you can come up with are just, it's really kind of opening up that playing field, and everybody should be able to understand and interact with it as well. So we're kind of breaking down a lot of those bridges between...
Whether we're a small bank or a big bank, big banks could have multiple teams, hundreds of people. A small bank may be a very, very tight team of 2 or 3. You say it's a levels the playing field.
Yeah, exactly. If you can, I mean, you're actually seeing quite a big trend now in a lot of startups. There's kind of talk of three team unicorns. If you can become so efficient and create such kind of systems and solutions that with a team of like 3 or 4 people, you can generate you can create a $1 billion company. If you're a small to medium-sized bank and you have a relatively lean team, you can operate at the size of a Citibank that has I don't know how many thousands, 30,000, 50,000 developers, for example.
Because the tools are that easy to use, you don't have to be a technician, a data scientist. You're conversing in natural language. You can develop multitudes of different products at speed, en masse. Variations. We'll talk about the risks of that in a minute.
Yes.
But it sounds super exciting. It sounds like it's a no-brainer to start doing this, and I guess it kind of leads you into why aren't people doing it yet, or what's the barriers, what's the risks of doing it?
Yeah. Well, I think that's we are still at early. It is still relatively early. Yeah. And it's the pace of change is so rapid that it feels like in some cases, it's been around for a few years, and a few years might seem like a long time because things are changing every day. But I think it's still very early, at least from this kind of global access to these kind of capabilities. Still very early. So people, I think, are still figuring out what are they, how do they work? Yeah. What do they mean for people's businesses? How do they access them? How do they encourage people in their organization to start using them?
The adoption piece. Yeah.
The adoption piece. There's a cultural, we'll kind of go into some of this in the report, but there's like, what are the steps to enabling and implementing? And it starts with, aligning your strategic goals, creating a kind of AI first culture, and then, starting small, but being ambitious. You need to, just get started, experiment, at least, I'm not saying go and experiment, in production with all of your customers, of course, but probably wouldn't be a recommended idea. But, experimenting, just getting people hands-on, getting a feel for what these kind of capabilities can provide. And I think people have started on that path, but I think it's still quite early.
They have in a previous episode of Evolv, we talked about AI and maybe some of the barriers to entry, and Michael, one of the guests, was talking about setting yourself up for success in this area, right? So making sure you have the foundations to actually absorb some of these AI tools, having the right policies in place, the board governance, ethics boards, making sure there's no bias in this. But one of the things we talked about was just data quality in general, right? So to be able to use all these fantastic AI tools, it's going to be powered by data. And so, I mean, even in my experience in working banks, one of the common complaints for most people is dirty data. It's the data's wrong. It's labeled 10 different ways. I use this analogy all the time. It's a spade, it's a shovel, it's something you dig things with, right? So actually, the foundation of the data is so dirty that if you're just going to put an overlay of AI on top of it, are you just going to accentuate that? Or do you go back to the root cause and the data dictionaries and clean up house before you supercharge it?
Yeah, absolutely. That I think that's exactly right, and it's like you mentioned the age-old kind of rubbish data in, kind of rubbish output. So
I said swear words before, but
it's all right. It's first time on the pod. Don't know if that's allowed yet, so don't want to debut with that.
No, maybe not. Leave that. I'll get banned for that. It's fine.
So I think I think that is also part of this understanding what these systems are and how they work is leading people into, well, let's prepare first to have, to be successful in using these solutions.
Yeah.
And a huge part of that, a fundamental part of that, is having the right data infrastructure effectively in place.
Yeah.
Right. And that's when you understand how these models work at
Yeah.
the kind of foundational level, you need good quality input.
Yeah.
And so you need your data infrastructure to effectively be in good order to help power these solutions going further. And I think that's also one of the areas we're seeing more development in is, kind of general purpose models versus kind of very niche market specific models. What kind of data you're feeding into these models and into these AI product engines.
Yeah.
And how that's going to fuel, good quality outcomes going forward. It's actually what there was, of course, a pretty big news story about Klarna and a lot of their SaaS applications, and their CEO was recently talking about their journey when they decided to experiment and explore what AI could do for their business.
Yeah.
They spent most of their time getting their data in order, and once they did that, they were able to have a really big impact on and basically build their own kind of AI-powered services that performed, the functions of a lot of SaaS applications. I think they got rid of something like 1,200 SaaS applications.
Wow.
Which is another interesting story. It tells you how many subscriptions and services are these organizations using for all sorts of things. But they were able to have a really big impact.
But, I mean, you get that. I mean, I think I can't recall you remember yourself what bank it was, but the use cases for AI. I mean, we talked about product management today, but just in general, will run into the hundreds, thousands, right? Hundreds of thousands. So, if you haven't got the foundation right, whether it be governance or data or policies or even the expertise as well, the actual people to do it, the success rate is going to be super low. And I think in general now, I think I read that even success rate for any AI type program or project is, less than 30%. It's a massive failure rate, pretty much in line with digital transformation, which is incredibly high rate as well. But I think in the white paper you kind of referenced that those that adopt a kind of a slow walk, crawl type process is going to experience a 50% higher success rate by doing that. So come truly focused on, I guess, the problems that you're trying to solve, whether it be product management or origination or credit risk or cyber crime, cyber fraud, whatever it might be, become super focused on those use cases. Go into it with the right governance, right structure, the right people, rather than have this scattergun holistic view of 350 use cases and, oh my God, how are we going to do them all? You're just going to fail, aren't you?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, you did bring up a really interesting point on the skill set, right? This is still a very new area. In a lot of cases, it is, despite like the output being this kind of natural language type experience where people can just converse, there's still a lot of kind of technical work and expertise that's needed to power these systems. And when we start talking into building agents and multi-agent kind of, multi-agent world where agents are interacting with agents, is real skill. You need the right skills in place to support your organization and your business in leveraging these solutions.
How difficult is it to go skills though, Byron? Because one of the things that people are going to worry about when in any shape or way about AI is job displacement, right? And you almost dig in your own grave. You've got product owners. We're talking about taking 50% of their work away. They're probably thinking, well, that's 50% of my work, right? So am I going to be needed in next year or whatever it is? But so how hard is it for product owners, or whether you're in credit risk or so, whatever it might be, where AI is clearly going to impact your business, your role? How difficult is it?
Yeah, I think it's always a big debate, right? Because
technology always displays jobs. We know it's an uncomfortable truth.
Yeah, but I think it's also a bit of a I'm more of a techno optimist type. So I would perhaps fall into that camp. So I think the opportunities, the new opportunities that don't yet exist, I think the volume of those opportunities will will outpace any kind of displacement. And so I don't think it's one is necessarily directly replacing each other, although it may look like that when you look at individual cases. I think on the whole, we will see, as we have seen in previous generations, an evolution.
Yeah.
People will evolve into new jobs that we just jobs, or not I don't want to call it jobs, but opportunities that will emerge that we just don't know even exist yet.
So that's a good point.
And so, I mean, you've even seen some things like, yes, there are some technical skills related to building models, for example. There's, things like prompt engineering. There's like a whole world of new opportunities that we just don't even know exist. So that's maybe everyone will have their own philosophy and view and incentives to.
I'm an optimist like you. I agree. I agree.
Yeah, but I think it is something to consider. There's also there's on something that may have such a large scale impact. You also need to consider like how that will impact society, how society is going to function in a world where, if everybody's super productive and has nothing to do, what's everyone going to do with all their time?
I think, and this is maybe a boring story, but I can think of one of my first ever jobs working in a bank. It was a tier 1 bank, and my first job, I had to come in at 6 o'clock in the morning, and all day I would spend checking signatures. So
sounds very exciting.
And he is super exciting. So anything over £1,000 back at then time, you'd have to physically check the signature against the signature card. So you'd take a check, and thousands of checks would be on my desk, right, stacked up to my desk. I'd take the check. I'd walk over to the signature card warehouse drawers. I'd have to find that customer, pull out the card, pull out the check. Does it match? Yes, fantastic. Next one. I'd do that for hours and hours and hours. That was my job.
Yeah.
Of course, how things. You think about that now, it's ridiculous. Check imaging service in signature scanning. But here I am, 25 years later. I'm hosting a podcast right now, but working for a technology company. Technology evolves. Yeah. People evolve, and you say, I would have never said 20 years ago that I'd be sitting here right now. So it's that opportunity that brings you don't know it's going to be around the corner.
I think so. You just don't know what's going to emerge. And you got to ask, like, was that a good use of your time? You could have been.
I could definitely answer that one.
I think you could have been doing a few other interesting things. So that's my view. There are many cases. There was obviously an article from DBS today talking about getting rid of thousands of people from their workforce because of AI projects that they're launching. So I think it's something that we'll see play out over the coming months and years. Yeah. But that's my view. I think the opportunities will.
What's the next phase of AI in product management then?
Wow. It's,
More of the same?
I think, I mean, we're definitely still in the early days, so I think people need to really double down on the being open to experimenting, trying, testing new ideas. And I think when this kind of agentic world really takes off, we're going to see a lot of agentic services,
agents as a service.
Agents as a service. I know that was a topic on the last part. So I think agents as a service, multi-agent worlds. Also think a lot more kind of real-time, kind of preemptive banking experiences. That's what I think, like, especially as consumers live their daily lives, somehow financial services are sort of embedded into sort of everything that you do. And I think as that becomes more and more kind of real time in nature, you'll have your own agents that will just be guiding you through life as you kind of operate on a daily basis. Yeah. So I think everyone will have sort of their own agents. There'll be some kind of multi-agent type services dealing with different sort of agents. And I think it's going to be quite interesting to sort of see how.
I know in your white paper there's an interesting fact. I'm just going to read it verbatim here. So by 2030, AI is expected to contribute over $1 trillion in value to the global banking industry, with product management being one of those key areas of impact. So we're talking big bucks.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it's just early days. The investment in these services is quite something. It's I think it's exciting. Now's the time to really double down and leverage these services and capabilities. It's not about who there's maybe a case for who has the best technology, but there's maybe even a stronger case for who uses that technology in the best way. And I think those are the people who are really going to be the leaders.
Yeah, fantastic. Look, we're coming to an end, Byron. So I think this is your first ever podcast you've been on.
It's my podcast debut.
Fantastic. You've done a fantastic job. So I just wanted to, I guess, leave 3 final reflections, and I know we've talked about these together for our watching audience and listeners. And the first one is, if you had unlimited AI resources, where would you point them to? Which banking product would you point them to? The second one is, how long did it take for you to make your last product change? I suspect that's going to be months. And to start to think about how AI can start to impact that process. And then the best one for me is, how long did it take you to launch a brand new product in today's world? And again, start giving it some thought around, if you had those AI resources and you started to adopt some of the things you've talked about today, do you turn those months to weeks? Do you turn them to days? Do you turn them to hours? And I think that's a thought beat I want to leave with everybody, because that's going to be the impact of AI in product management.
Lots to think about.
So Byron, thank you for your time today. We'll have you back on another pod, but thanks for your intelligence and your insight, and we look forward to releasing that white paper for everybody to absorb and read. So thank you very much.
Absolutely. Thanks a lot.